In terms of trajectories, what was really important for us is recognizing that if you just went in and you measured things at the baseline and at the end line, they may not show any change that happened in those 5 years of the program. But in fact, we know that the households and communities were significantly affected by shocks throughout that time period. And in fact, they may have gone up and down in terms of their food security over time. And so what we are interested in is recognizing you need to have measures over time that allow you to determine whether people are coping effectively with these shocks and stresses. So one of the things that we came up with is to have what we call a recurrent monitoring system. And so once we know that a shock or a major stressor is hit, we can actually track how households are managing that shock over a year-long period. So we collect information on households every 2 months to see if they actually are managing the shocks and stresses over time. What kinds of coping strategies are they turning to? Are they cutting down on their assets and selling off their assets to manage it, or actually are they able to manage it effectively? So the recurrent monitoring system essentially is a panel data set from the baseline, so that we're actually tracking a subset of the same households over time, and we're actually seeing how they're doing every 2 months. So it's a smaller questionnaire from the baseline. It just asks questions. It takes about 20 minutes to collect, but we're really looking at, not only the major shock that people were exposed to, but the downstream shocks that they're also experiencing. So for example, if you're hit by a drought in Ethiopia, the second thing that happens is animals start to get sick because there's not enough fodder or water for them to eat. So you have this second shock, which is livestock diseases start to break out. And then people are then trying to sell all their animals before they die. And so there's this huge influx of animals to the market. And that causes a terms of trade problem where the prices of grain go up dramatically in relationship to exchange for animals. So you've got a third shock, which is this price shock that they're hit with. And then when they can't really survive effectively, or they can't really manage effectively when that's going on, they may then turn to trying to go to other pasture or water belonging to other ethnic groups. And so that's when a conflict shock starts to hit. So you see how these shocks are all interconnected to each other, and how they affect people's ability to cope over time. So you not only want to know how they did this season, but how it affects what they're doing next season. So decisions that people make in the rainy season have a huge effect on what they can decide on in the dry season. So tracking households over a year-long time really gives us an in-depth understanding of whether or not these households are becoming more resilient or less resilient over time. So these trajectories are extremely important to understand. So we've had 2 rounds now in Ethiopia tracking these households over time, and it's really provided a wealth of information. We can actually tell which kinds of capacities are more likely to strengthen households' ability to manage these shocks more effectively, and those essentially can be the investment strategies that we hope that projects will focus on. If it turns out that access to financial services is a key factor that allows households to manage these shocks, we would want them to invest more in that area. So it provides a nice feedback loop into programming, where you're not only using measurement to see what's happening in households, but it tells you what investments are more likely paying off better.